Welcome back, you filthy exiles. So, I actually saw a video that MBX posted up the other day and it gave me a really good idea. I've been posting so many videos and builds over the last 3 years that I could just do a whole video of rehashed builds and POBs of my builds at this stage in 5 builds I would recommend. So, that's exactly what we're going to do. I've went back to 3.18. In particular, there was someone who posted a comment where they wanted to see a CI occultist that would be viable. Now, I've got one of those. I will say all of these builds I've taken through Delve, these are not like the fastest, like high endorphin racing builds that you will play in a league, but they are tanky and they are good for Delve and they are just solidly consistent builds. You will need a little bit of gearing on, for example, 2 of them will need leadership's price for anyone who knows what I'm about to talk about. I rejigged their POBs last night and you'll already see in the links, and if you were to go back in the videos, they'll be upgraded to 3.21. Really, this league allows us to have some insane levels of power with the, as you can see on screen, basically the master level or, you know, legendary aspect, whatever craft, if you want to look at it Diablo 4 style or whatever, that's going to be available with the Crucible crafting system on our items and our offhands. So we can pretty much assume any of the builds I would put up can probably be made significantly more powerful with ridiculous gearing options in that respect. So anyway, let's get into the video and talk about 5 Jorgen League starters that you could play in 3.21, especially if you like Delve. Alright, so getting us started, if you guys haven't already seen the video, it's going to be my league starter that I'm going to be playing, in particular because I really want to focus on Delve at the very start of League and smashing Crystal Kings. It's going to be the Shield Crush Juggernaut. Now, why this build? Well, I played this build back in 3.9 and it was ridiculous. One of the biggest advantages of this build is actually the shield that you run on it when you do get there is Emperor's Vigilance is actually the only unique chance. So for the base type, which is a Steel Kite Shield, it's the only chanceable unique that you can get from chancing Steel Kite Shields. So it's actually going to be hopefully very easy to get an Emperor's Vigilance, and then that's actually going to make it really easy to get an early skill tree Emperor's Vigilance, because you'll roll the skill tree onto the base Steel Kite Shield and then chance it until you get Emperor's Vigilance. Really easy. Now, one of the biggest reasons I like this build, number one, I play for attack speed. It got to like 8.95 APS when I played it last. I think I can get it way tankier. The gear was really relatively easy to gear up. Now, in the tree that I've provided per the link below, you'll also see that it levels up from level 10 all the way through to level 100 and gives you all the pathing that you need to know. And I'm pretty sure I also included, I did not include gearing options in this, but I have a whole video explaining how you would level this up at this stage. And I'm also on stream right now running through a act by act leveling tree and leveling itemization sort of video setup. So you'll see this come out the day before League launch. Overall, if you want to Delve, really strong build, really good at just hammering into bosses. It got to about 20 million DPS. Where it sits currently is about 17.29 million DPS after the changes since the 3.21 patch notes, or sorry, since the 3.21 POBs now out. It's about 214,000 effective hit pool, but can go way higher. It is an armor stacker, it does use Replica Dream Feather, but overall, just a really solid build, really forgiving build, and a relatively easy one to level up, as you'll use SST from level 28. You just level up with Ground Slam to get to Act 3, and then level 28, you'll get SST, and then it's just a breeze to push through the campaign, which I'll have a video up showing in the next few nights. Anyway, this would be my first recommendation for those who are looking for a melee build, number one, and also just something that you can smash the shit out of Delve at like depth down to 500 or so is where I ended up taking this one. Okay, so somebody asked for this one to get renewed, so I've done exactly this. I have renewed my Blazing Salvo Inquisitor. Now, the thing about Blazing Salvo is it's sort of a bit of a slower-ish sort of spellcasting skill if you want to look at it like that, but holy shit, it gets tanky as hell, and it's actually a lot of fun to play. Now, this build does use a leadership's price, but I have put a leveling tree in which doesn't use a leadership's price in the video, which basically gets to about, you know, if you were leveling it up on a consistent basis, you know, if I pull it up to level 92, gets to about 1.16 million, and then the Blazing Salvo build gets to, you know, anywhere up to 10 million DPS, depending on your gearing and setup. Now, in the video initially, I had it going into more defensive nodes, but if you build up towards the cast speed nodes, mental rapidity, then basically it's just a beast early on. And now I've provided a leveling tree in the video that'll be linked in the description from level 20, 45, 70, and 92. And this also has all the items that you'll need early on. Ignore the green spectrum. I don't know what I was thinking back then. They were like, at the time, they were a good idea, but now not so much. But they're just endurance charge ones anyway, so you don't really need those. Outside of that, this build I played back in, I think, 3.19. And it was my league starter. I absolutely cheesed my way through the game because it was just easy mode. Bossing, because you're running max block with glancing blows, it was just a pretty much cakewalk through everything. Now, how far did I get in Delve with this? I got to about depth 500, 550, but the Inquisitor really struggles when it gets a little bit lower because unlike the Jug, it doesn't have the defensive stats. So you'll get to about 500 core average with this build. This build was super fun, map clear was good, speed was good, nothing like throwing fireballs out every possible direction. This build's potentially more powerful now because of the itemization system as well, which will allow you to craft on some crazy craft. I don't know what it's going to be, but, you know, we'll soon see what sort of mods that you can get on wands and shields and whatnot. But overall, I'd say really good build. It uses things like Legacy of Fury, which is pretty cheap, you know, in the first like couple weeks because it's literally just a Maven drop. Brass Dome, with most of these builds, it's Brass Dome. And Leadership's Price, which usually becomes available by the end of the first week. It's a unique drop that you can only get from Heist, but generally becomes very available within the first few, you know, it's like usually by like day 4 in League. And then you get a good roll, and then basically you just smash your way through the game. Overall, really good build, really solid build, really fun to play. It's definitely not meta, because everybody else is not going to be saying, hey, play Blazing Salvo. But something worth having a look at if you want to play something a little different. It's a little slower to level up, but it'll be a fun build one way or another. My guide covers off on everything. My leveling tree's got a huge amount of detail to it, and I have a huge notes section in the leveling tree, which will basically give you a good idea of how things are working, how to level it up, what gear to look at. I know a lot of guys in the Discord have also provided help, especially Zelors, which basically went through how to level this up from early acts. Now, it does say Onslaught from Act 1. Instead of that, you'll run Momentum now. But yeah, overall, really good build, really fun. I've updated the build guide that'll be in the description to 3.21 POB, and the damage is perfectly fine, and the defense is perfectly fine. Okay, so the next build off the rank, it should not be any surprise, is my Cracklands build from 3.19. Why this build? It was a really good build. Like, Cracklands hit like 6.5 million DPS per Cracklands. It's not the highest amount of DPS, but it also casts it at a 9.2 rate. It was just absolutely ridiculous. There's a lot of room to move with this build, but similar to the Blazing Salvo build I just mentioned as number 2, it's a Leadership's Price build, which basically just means you have to max your strength and intelligence. Now, I've already done that in the tree. You just literally have to follow the tree tit for tat. Outside of that, I've provided a leveling tree, which will take you from level 20 through to, and I'm just having a look at the tree now, 45, 70, and 95. It also includes a note section on how to actually level it up with some community feedback from Zelors as well. Yeah, and I've also included scuffed items and in the leveling tree because, you know, everybody was upset about the leveling tree. All you need to do is just de-level some gems and whatnot. But leveling up was relatively easy. It was Absolution in Act 1. And then basically beyond that point up to Cracklands when you get Spell Echo, and you could either choose to continue running Absolution or Cracklands for a little while. You'll get to about 1.4 million DPS once you level up to a 6 gem socketed setup. Before you get Leadership's Price, once you introduce Leadership's Price in the build, it just pops off and the defense goes through the roof and everything else in between. I took this build down to about, again, 500 depth and delve. It literally just sat on bosses and crushed bosses. Now, is it going to kill Ubers? No, it's not going to kill Ubers without significant investment. But that being said, you can probably get to significant investment. And if you want a highly regenerative build, 1.4 thousand life regeneration per second, I'd say, is pretty good on an average life regeneration basis. So it's highly defensive, really fun to play, and different because I don't think anybody else is pushing for Cracklands builds at this stage, so it might be something worth having a look at. Anyway, this would be my third build that I'd recommend for the league. Okay, so the next build I'm going to mention here is actually EK Ignite Elementalist, and this is one that I recently put a leveling guide together for that went through act by act, up to the end of Act 10. And I've provided a full skill tree layout, everything below. You'll be able to see it in the links below in the description. Now, MBX did a video around this. This does rely on maxing out spell suppression, and you know what's really funny is the new mastery that gives you a chance to suppress spell damage is lucky. Actually maxes you out to 99% spell suppression if you itemize your build correctly. Now, the tree that I designed this from was one that got to 600 depth and delve. Though I haven't tested it that low in delve, you know, the trend seems to be pretty consistent between 400 to 600 depth and delve. It was pretty consistent because of the damage output that it inflicted with ignites, being around 20.9 million DPS once you apply Gloomfang and the correct gearing. Now, that being said, there is a little bit of investment to get it to that end game perfect level of build, and what most players will end up doing is leveling up as a Wave of Conviction character, and you can use the leveling tree to do that. Just apply Wave of Conviction from, I believe, Act 2 or 3. I think it's Act 2, maybe Act 3. And then basically just roll out Ignite. Once you get the Shaper of Flames Ascendancy, then basically the game becomes a breeze, and it is one of the easiest clear speed or clear leveling builds that you will ever play. And then once you apply some defensive layering and whatnot, then you can take it down into Delve and just absolutely smash your way through down there. As far as playstyle goes, really easy, relatively easy to play early on, scales really well, gets to maps really quickly. It's one of those builds that really hits the adrenaline endorphin button. It's not a slow build by any measure. It just belts enemies in front of you. What's also really cool is the new Fire Mastery, where burning enemies you kill have 3% chance to explode, dealing a tenth of their maximum life as fire damage. I'm interested to see how that will work, and I'm looking at either doing this as my second or third build for this league, and then getting it delvable to push all the way down. Overall, really good build, really consistent. I'll also put a link to MBX's video down below as well, because he played that on League Start last league. And basically, I would suggest playing Wave of Conviction until you get to getting a Gloomfang, and then once you get a Gloomfang, then play EK, and then basically your damage will scale out. And the reason why is Gloomfang allows for one projectile or one additional chain on projectiles, and then projectiles that chain will then apply anywhere up to 40% of non-chaos damage as extra chaos damage, which is a monolithic increase to damage output for this build. But this is build number 4 that I'd recommend for this league. Alright, so the final build will be one that, for people who have followed my channel for a few years now, will know I notoriously love this build, and it's actually more powerful than what it used to be, and can be even more powerful with the new crafts, and it's my Delve variation of Vortex Occultist. It actually gets to 3.4 million cold dot now. I don't even know why. It's so damn powerful. And this was max block. This ended out using Aegis Aurora in the end, but I've provided a link to a leveling tree. There is a bit of a glitch with the leveling tree for some reason, but the pathing sequence and everything is still consistent, as well as the gearing, so you can follow that tree and it will not lead you astray, with the end build in mind being the absolute meatbag tank endpoint, Chaos Inoculation, Aegis Aurora, max block, Delve Vortex Occultist that I ended up playing. Now, this build I took down to I think it was 800 Delve. There was no need for Mage Blood. I was able to just absolutely face tank bosses, as you can see on screen. When we could get double Guardians, I was able to face tank that and never worry about dying, which was really cool. It basically just abused the regeneration mechanic on Watcher's Eyes and Energy Shield, so that my Energy Shield basically had 100% regeneration rate and would be just like an arc reactor and kept regenerating irrespective of what was going on with Wicked Water activated in the background. So taking damage, you would just generate from both the huge amounts of energy shield regeneration refresh rate and also the regeneration from from the Aegis Aurora, as well as native ES regeneration as well. So basically just ticked all the combo boxes of being an absolutely ridiculous build. Now, this build does take a little bit to get to the 3.4 million DPS mark, and it does require an All's Uprising with Hatred, but if you're farming Delve with it, it's going to be super easy. One of the best things about Cold Dot Vortex is it's a really, really good build. Like, leveling it up is super easy, getting it through the axe super easy, and then if you get it to this point in tankiness, you can basically just tank everything. The only thing that this thing will struggle with is Maven, because it's not designed to take on bosses with memory games or weird or wacky mechanics. Every other boss you'll have no issues with. I believe I did take down Uber Shaper with this as well. So potentially this can take down Ubers with a little bit more investment, and if you were to slap a Mage Blood on this would be God tier. Anyway, this is one of my all-time favorite builds that I put together. I perfected it over like 3 leagues, I'm pretty sure. And pulling in the tree last night and finding out that it's actually more powerful was a really surprising outcome, and sort of makes me want to play it again. But we'll see how we go this league. Anyway, this would be my final recommendation of league starters that I've played. And yeah, it won't disappoint. All of these builds, including this one, have leveling trees, and all the links will be in the description below. Okay, so I hope this list is helpful. A lot of these builds aren't like instant satisfaction builds. If you follow the leveling tree the way that I've set them out, they won't lead you astray. You will need to make some deviations as you go based on differences in gear that you'll pick up and whatnot. That's just native with any build guide. I've provided as much information as I could with each of these. I've provided cheaper versions. If you watch my videos back, it's pretty robust commentary, and I've explained all the damage outcomes. I've explained how all the configuration settings and POB works for it. And everything else in between. So if you've got any questions, feel free to hit me up. Holy crap, I just ticked one setting off and it goes up to 339,000 effective hit pool for my Vortex Occultist. Jesus Christ, that's a bloody powerful. Anyway, sorry guys. So yeah, if you've got any questions, hit me up in the description. I'll try and remember as much as I can about every build I've played, but all these builds I've either tried through the axe and leveled up, or fully played through into endgame. I think the only one I haven't played to full endgame is EK, and that's why I've also put a link to MBX's video to basically double down on that as a really good build. But anyway, if you like this video, if this gives you more options for what you can play for the league, then drop me a like, drop me a sub. Don't forget to follow the Twitch, and don't forget to stay as filthy as hell, and I will see you guys on League Start. All right, have a good one, and bye.